Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, Iran fires on U.S. Navy ships and the U.S. strikes back. Saudi Arabia and Kuwait lift restrictions on their airbases. Is war around the corner or a deal? Plus, legislation in California that could mean 2 Muslim holy days will become official holidays. And finding healing in the waves. How one Israeli surfing school helps students learn to face life's challenges. All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell.
And I'm Julie Stahl.
The U.S. and Iran could be closing in on a deal to end the war as President Trump delivers another ultimatum. Meanwhile, Israel delivers a major strike against terrorism in Lebanon.
CENTCOM reported the U.S. Navy intercepted Iranian attacks on 3 U.S. destroyers in the Strait of Hormuz Thursday night. However, President Trump dismissed the incident and said it will not end the ceasefire. Here's the latest on these and other stories.
We could learn as soon as today whether Iran will agree to come back to the negotiating table.
They want to make a deal. We've had very good talks over the last 24 hours. And it's very possible that we'll make a deal.
President Trump told Fox News that he's cautiously optimistic that U.S. and Iran could agree on a one-page memorandum that calls for 30 days of talks. That includes Iran surrendering its enriched uranium, the U.S. sanctions, and reopening the Strait of Hormuz. He also issued a one-week ultimatum, posting on X that if they don't agree, the bombing starts.
We've had some good talks before, as you know. Right. And all of a sudden, the next day, they're like, they forgot what happened.
NBC News reports that Trump's sudden cancellation of the operation escorting vessels through the Strait of Hormuz came as a result of Saudi Arabia suspending U.S. military access in their country. According to the report, Trump angered and surprised some Gulf allies when he announced Project Freedom on social media without advance notification.
We maintain continuous contact with our friends in the United States. I speak with President Trump almost on a daily basis.
While a new Israeli poll shows most citizens believe ending the war with Iran now contradicts their security interests, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says his country is in lockstep with U.S. efforts in the region. Netanyahu convened with a security cabinet late Wednesday, announcing the first strike in Beirut in more than a month. The Israeli Defense Forces reported the strike eliminated the commander of Hezbollah's Radwan force, who it says was behind the ongoing attacks in northern Israel.
This is my instruction to the IDF and our security forces. Israel is stronger than ever. Iran and its proxies are weaker than ever.
Economically, the news of potential peace talks resulted in sinking oil prices and a surging stock market. Iran is also cutting its oil production due to storage shortages caused by the U.S. blockade. And in Iran, more death sentences carried out by the regime. The Jerusalem Post reports 3 prisoners executed over the weekend after being forced to confess to crimes they didn't commit, including espionage for the Zionist regime. In letters to a human rights group, the 3 telling stories of physical and psychological torture, and one reporting threats against his wife if he didn't confess. None of their families were notified of the executions, denying them a last visit as mandated in Iranian law. Paul Petit, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Iran targeted the U.S. warships with missile, drones, and fast attack boats. CENTCOM said U.S. forces responded in self-defense and are not seeking escalation.
We had 3 world-class destroyers go through the strait today. Any other country, under the circumstances, wouldn't have shot missiles at it and drones at it and these stupid boats that came at it. They got blown away in about 2 minutes.
President Trump insists the ceasefire remains in effect.
They trifled with us today. We blew them away. They trifled. I call that a trifle. I'll let you know when there's no ceasefire. You won't have to know. If there's no ceasefire, you're not going to have to know. You're just going to have to look at one big glow coming out of Iran. And they better sign their agreement fast.
And the president says a deal with the Islamic Republic could be close.
The talks are going very well, but they have to understand if it doesn't get signed, they're going to have a lot of pain. They're going to have a lot of pain. They want to sign it, I will tell you. they want to sign it a lot more than I do.
Also here in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have agreed to restore U.S. access to bases and airspace. That move allows Washington to resume Project Freedom, the operation to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz and counter Iran's threats to shipping. The Washington Post reports the CIA believes Iran can withstand a U.S. naval blockade for 3 to 4 months, and that Iran's current leadership is more radical and increasingly confident it can outlast the U.S. Yet another estimate says the blockade is inflicting real compounding damage and accelerating systematic economic collapse. Here in Israel, many are concerned a deal with the current Iranian Islamic regime may delay but not dismantle Tehran's nuclear threat, allow it to continue to support its proxies in the region, to recover economically, and leave in place a government still dedicated to the destruction of both the U.S., what they call the Great Satan, and Israel, what they call the Little Satan. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem. The state of California is about to vote on legislation that some say would establish a dangerous precedent regarding state holidays. Podcast host Rabbi Michael Barkley spoke with CBN's Gary Lane about what's at stake. Here's an excerpt, and you can catch the entire interview on CBN's YouTube channel.
The bill is all about taking 2 Islamic religious holidays and making them official state holidays. This is problematic on a number of levels. The first is no other religion has religious holidays that are also state holidays in California. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Ash Wednesday, Good Friday. None of these religious holidays are considered state holidays by the state. But they want to make 2 other holidays that are Islamic into official state holidays. One is al-Fitr. Al-Fitr is a celebration of the end of the month of Ramadan. Ramadan is not a month of peace. In fact, al-Qaida calls it the month of conquests. It is where they typically do start wars, starting with Muhammad, who started 2 wars during that month. So it's a holiday of war and of conquest. And even more disturbingly on some level, this holiday, al-Adha, it means the Feast of Sacrifice. And the practices involved around this holiday are, number one, throwing stones, symbolic of stoning Satan and all of his helpers, which would include you and I, as we are considered kafir, we're considered infidels. And the other thing that's done on this holiday is animal sacrifice. Every Muslim is supposed to sacrifice an animal. Every year, over 50 million animals are slaughtered on this one holiday. Every single year, over 13 million in Bangladesh, over 9 million in Pakistan. But this is what the California legislature is just moving right on through with their supermajority of Democrats. And it really is something that can be a great issue for the Republicans, but it's something we need to stop just on a political level, on a religious level, on an ethical level, that these religious holidays, out of all the good ones with so many different religions, will become official California state holidays. So that's kind of what's going on here in California.
Well, what's interesting here is Muslims comprise only about 500,000 people in a state of 40 million. So why do they have so much influence with members of the California State Assembly? Are they a united voting bloc? Is that it?
I think one is they are a united voting bloc. When an imam says vote this way, the whole congregation does. I mean, that's just their theology. The other reason, I think, is because there is sort of this weird alliance between the far left, which is where California Democrats are, and Islam and Marxism and all of these that we see come together at universities, we see in the protests. And the irony of that is when I see, as an example, signs at UCLA riots a couple of years ago that said queers for Palestine, these people aren't even conscious of the fact that their sexual choices would get them beheaded in any Arab Muslim country. Or Jews for Palestine, the same thing. It's really foolishness.
Well, what are the chances then that this will become law? And what would that say about California?
Almost 100% that it'll become law, unless the Republicans make a real big push to say, this is the issue we want to fight on and contest all of these, use this as the issue to try and take the Democrats out of power. Right now, there's a Democratic supermajority in California. They can do whatever they want. In theory, Newsom could veto it. That is a possibility because I don't know that he wants to try to have this on his record and run for president. That would probably be a bad move. But it's probably going to get passed, and it's probably going to become California law. It will then be contested by wonderful organizations like Robert Tyler, the Advocates for Faith and Freedom, and different religious attorneys. About the constitutionality of it will be tested, but it's a lot harder to unwind a bill that's been passed than it is to stop the bill. And it's shocking to me that this is not something that's been widely reported nationwide, and certainly not even in California.
Jill, you know, we're here in the Middle East, and we may see things a little different here in the Middle East as people see in California or the U.S.
Yeah, that's for sure. You know, basically this is, it's recognizing Islam over any kind of Christian, Jewish, any other religion. And we're talking about, like, you know, 2% of the population, less than 2% of the population of California, and they're basically bowing down to this. They're not putting in force celebrating any kind of biblical holiday. Right. You know, they have Christmas, but that's only because they're forced to. Yeah. And I think people need to understand that Islam is a territorial religion, and it's incremental. We've seen this in many cities in Europe. We were there in Belgium several years ago, and there were literally a no-go zone. I mean, if you were a non-Muslim, you really couldn't go there. Things like that are happening in Paris. Right now in Texas, they're fighting Sharia law. So many people believe this is just one step, one small step towards trying to implement Sharia law in California and other places in the country. And it's really kind of a big step. Yeah. You know, it's really bowing down to them and their God and their culture. And, you know, people aren't even looking at how it's going to affect the whole state. You know, taxpayers are going to be paying for having days off. Yeah. They'll be paid for that. The schools will be closed. It's not a little thing. Yeah. And as he said, it's 100% certain it's going to pass, but people can still pray. They can pray, and this is a spiritual battle, and we have to really encourage people to be praying and you know, pray against this. Yeah, yeah. We know that the vote hasn't happened yet, but as you said, people can pray, and it really is a spiritual battle, and it's not just California. No. It's Texas, and it's other places around the country. Yeah, and it's a plan. It is a plan. Yeah. Well, we know from the Muslim Brotherhood as a agenda and a plan to really take over the U.S. It sounds... And the world. Exactly. That's what they believe. Concerns over growing anti-Semitism in the U.S. served as the motivation behind a major push on Capitol Hill this week. Faith leaders and other supporters gathered for what's known as Israel Advocacy Day. Our Washington correspondent Jenna Browder has more.
As America confronts anti-Israel sentiment, some 300 pastors and rabbis are in Washington this week, meeting with lawmakers and making their case.
We're there just talking and sharing basic American concerns.
Among them, Bishop Robert Stearns, an evangelical leader and longtime advocate for Israel. He says this moment is urgent, not just over policy, but because of what's happening inside the United States.
We're talking about the fact that American citizens should not be afraid. And right now, Jewish people in America are afraid. They're being attacked. It's not something that might happen. It is something that is regularly happening.
The numbers underscore that fear. According to the Anti-Defamation League, there were more than 9,000 anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. last year, the highest number ever recorded. For the first time, a majority of those incidents were tied to anti-Israel rhetoric or activity. And surveys from the American Jewish Committee show more than 9 in 10 American Jews say anti-Semitism is a serious problem, with many reporting they've changed how they live out of fear.
You know, there's talk of criticizing the Israeli government. So that's one thing, criticizing the Israeli government. But to you, when does that start to kind of veer into or cross over into anti-Semitism? How do you see that?
Right. So that's a fantastic question. So criticizing policies or political leaders is, of course, completely legitimate. Where we cross the line into a place of anti-Semitism is where we begin to, it's three things. Number one, we begin to delegitimize the state of Israel. That, you know, this question of, does Israel have the right to exist?
Number two, he says, is when Israel is held to a different or double standard. And number three, the demonization of Israel. Stearns, who leads Eagle's Wings Ministries, also speaks to a growing divide within the church. He warns against what's known as replacement theology, the belief that the church has replaced Israel, a view gaining traction among younger Christians.
When you step into replacement theology, I don't think you're attacking the Jews. I think you are attacking the character of God. Do you serve a God who keeps his promises? Does the Bible tell us that God is a covenant-keeping God? Does God only keep his covenants when we obey him perfectly? I hope not.
On Capitol Hill, the focus is also on action. Advocates want lawmakers to strengthen the U.S.-Israel alliance, increase funding for security at Jewish institutions, and confront anti-Semitism more aggressively.
We're urging our government to protect American citizens. We're urging our government to protect houses of worship, all houses of worship. Our church now needs to have armed security all the time, every service we're there. This is a reality. This should not, should not be so, but this is where culture is bringing us down to it.
For those gathered here, the message is clear. Support for Israel and confronting anti-Semitism must go hand in hand. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
An Israeli healing program has Christian, Jewish, and Muslim youth riding the same wave toward a brighter future. I went to Tel Aviv-Yafo to see it in operation. Take a look. Israel's Mediterranean coast boasts stunning views and great beaches.
The sea is the ultimate metaphor for life. It could be big and scary. It could be flat. It could be sunny like today. And so many things that you have control of and so many things that are not.
Hagal Shali, Hebrew for my wave, is using this water to bring Israeli teenagers together. The program aims to use the power of the sea and the challenges of surfing to help the teens heal from trauma and gain a sense of self-confidence and achievement that will propel them through the challenges of life.
How do I act when I experience fear? You try again, you fall, you get up again, you get smashed, you gotta get up again.
As a teenager, Hagal Shali CEO and co-founder Yaron Waxman discovered surfing, and it helped him get his life together. Later, he wanted to pay it forward and help other youth.
And 6 years ago, a little bit more than before the war, actually, we started to work with, in conjunction with the Ministry of Defense Rehabilitation Department, working with veterans who are suffering from PTSD.
They grew to 12 centers and 500 staff members stretched out along Israel's Mediterranean coastline. Then, after October 7th, they saw the need to expand their work.
So now we're working with literally every single one of the communities from down south, from the Gaza envelope. So we're working with Jewish, Christians, Muslims, boys, girls, Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox, secular, Bedouin, a kid is a kid.
In today's world, many wonder if that causes friction.
Always. And with the unique program that we've built, again, you learn how to live together and how to accept the other. And we don't have to agree. It's fine.
That mission has resulted in 20,000 Hagal Shali alumni, with 5,000 this year alone. That number includes instructor Elias Saba, who's been with the program from the beginning.
There was this program about surfing, and I was overweight, and I didn't know how to swim or anything, and I still wanted to go. And they took the risk on me.
While afraid at the beginning, little by little, Elias overcame his fear and learned how to surf.
When you weigh around 320 pounds or 145 kilos, you never believe that you'll be able to stand up on a surfboard and, catch that wave and pull off all these moves and stuff. But it really opens up your horizon, broadens it up, and shows you what you can do.
After his personal achievement, Elias wanted to help others, so he joined the team and became a certified instructor.
I really believe that Hagal Shali is a beacon for hope and for peace and for progress, because at the end of the day, we've been doing this for 12 years now, and we reach kids from all around Israel. We're going to take you in, we're going to love you, and we're going to teach you how to deal with life on a day-to-day basis and not only how to surf.
18-year-old Nachman Kabir dealt with bullies at school for 7 years. That led to depression, and Nachman even felt suicidal before joining Hagal Shali.
They took my feelings, which were like a storm inside of me, and I didn't understand what I'm feeling, what I'm supposed to feel. and they told me, you're gonna feel this.
That's when his perspective changed and Nachman started to move forward.
And they explain it. And then I start to understand how my feeling works. How can I move with them and around my body? Like, why does my stomach ache? Why do I have panic attacks? They told me how happiness feels. And I think that's like the best thing they ever done for me.
After the initial course, Nachman has continued for almost 5 years now.
I want to do more. I want to be more than practitioner. I want to help kids. I want to do what you do. Then they said, you can come over for another year. And I was like, that's amazing. That's exactly what I want.
He sees no problem with the mixture of Jews, Muslims, and Christians.
Everyone is so much different, but it doesn't matter here. You know, it doesn't matter where you come. It matters that you're right here and you're with us, and that's it.
Julie, you were pretty excited about that story.
I still am. I think it's a great program. The people are they're amazing.
I liked what one guy said at the very end. This is how happiness feels.
Yeah, and you know, he came from a really hard, it wasn't a hard background from like his parents' side, but at school he didn't, wasn't accepted, and he was bullied, and then to find something where you could fit in and accomplish something, it's really amazing. I kept thinking, man, I should go surfing.
Maybe you should. Yeah. And they said 20,000 alumni, 5,000 this year. It's pretty substantial.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And they've, like I said, they've broadened out. They've been really helping the people that went through the October 7th.
Sure.
The people that survived, the people that didn't. One of the main Yaron, he said there was right after October 7th, a few days after, they had a 12-year-old boy who lost his entire family. And he said, I didn't even know how I was going to talk to him.
Wow.
And it took him out in the water, and the kid couldn't get up on the surfboard and everything. And then he said, no, I'm finished. I have to go in. And Yaron said to him, look, the best way is on the surfboard. And he got on the surfboard one more time, and Yaron gave him a push. And then the kid did it. And he turned around and smiled and went, yay.
Yay.
So it has success, a lot of success.
Yeah. And this is reaching out to the IDF as well, people with PTSD?
Yes, yeah. They're having good success across the board, I think, because it rebuilds their confidence. It gives them something fun to do, something to look forward to, and a confidence in life.
Yeah. And you have Muslims, and you have Jews, and you have Christians, all part of this.
Yep, and they say, look, we can have different opinions, but you can have other opinions, but when we're together, never mind. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, well, great story, and a really a good feeling good story that in a region that not seeing that all the time.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us for this Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell.
Remember to follow us on social media, and please keep praying for wisdom for our leaders, President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, and for the best possible outcome for all nations affected by the current conflict in the Middle East.
And pray for protection for Israel and for the peace of Jerusalem. I'm Chris Mitchell. For all of us here at the Jerusalem Bureau, we'll see you next time on Tuesday on Jerusalem Dateline.